Good morning. Today I'm very happy to welcome Mrs. Erin Lamont. She's a dancer, model, and choreographer from the United States. How are you, Erin?
I'm
Thank you
very
very
good.
much
Thanks for having me.
thank you for thank you. Before we talk about your current work, tell me a little bit about your early interest into becoming a choreographer and dancer until you studied.
Sure. Well, my story is very simple. I took a tap class at 7 years old and I was hooked. And I knew that's what I wanted to do the rest of my life. And well, I just kept adding, genres, jazz, ballet, modern, point, partnering. I just knew that dance was my first and, true love. And so I just knew I wanted to do it for the rest of my life.
Great. And I want to ask you about burlesque dancing. Is it a genre that they teach where you studied in Michigan or elsewhere across the states, or this is something you work on, individually?
Sure. So I started my burlesque show in Los Angeles. I moved there after college. I was a dancer on a cruise ship, and meeting fellow dancers, I came across an opportunity to create a show, and it was, a happy hour, martini bar kind of show. And so it started out very small, and I started with my girlfriends that I would audition with. And it was very simple and very small. And all I knew was that, the burlesque, it's all about the costumes and it's about the performers, but it's also about being funny on stage. It's the hilarity and the sexiness and trying to strike the balance between that. And so I just started, as a choreographer and hearing music, I see dance. And so I just started with songs that I loved and started creating, 15 to 30-minute snippets of a show. And then I started creating longer shows and bigger shows and more shows. And here I am.
Great. And tell me about your move. I saw you studied in Michigan, then you worked in California, and right now I think you're based in Florida, right?
Yes, I just moved to Florida two
Yeah.
years ago. Yep. And but I go back and forth between LA and Florida about twice a month. And so it still kind of feels like I live there. But my dancers and my show is based in Los Angeles. And so, to go there for rehearsals, I'm actually headed there next week for a show in Palm Springs. And so, while being
Excellent.
born and raised in Michigan, I left Michigan when I was 21. I graduated, went to college there, and then in LA, that's when I started working more commercially, and for film, TV, and artists and such.
Excellent. Tell me about the Lalas. Of course, this is your band, and you choreograph the band only, or you dance with them?
No, I choreograph the Lalas is a group of up to 11 women, but on stage you'll see 6 women perform along with an MC or a host, and it's a 75-minute show, and it's group numbers, solo acts. It's very audience interactive. It's classic rock and blues music, and we're the only show of its kind that has had the success performing at casinos, event centers, theaters around the globe. And the women that you see on stage, they're the best women working in television in Los Angeles. They are the creme de la creme. They're full-time professionals. And so, you've seen them on TV without even knowing it. And then when you see them on stage, that's who they truly are, their personality. And one of my favorite parts about creating the show is also creating, solos and ideas and concepts for the dancers that you see, because, these are women of all backgrounds, shapes, sizes, colors, heights, all the things. And, it's a great variety, and it is really, truly very fun.
Great. Great. So I've seen that the Lalas perform, for instance, in talk shows, on big networks, like the Tonight Show and stuff like that.
Sure.
Maybe at the Academy Awards, at the Oscars, when they need, a lot of groups, many dancers for a presentation, stuff like that, correct?
Absolutely. You've seen these women
Yes.
individually, um, on such shows like that. And for their actresses, their models, their choreographers as well. So they're truly just very empowered, talented women that can basically do it all.
Yes, and as well, the movement is an agency as well for casting models and dancers.
Sure, that is my choreography agent in Los Angeles. They book for direct book for TV and commercial for my choreography, and then the Lalas is my own separate baby, where I basically do everything except step on stage. So I cast, choreograph, book, do the contracts, make the costumes, create the costumes, pack the costumes, and so you I do everything except step on stage.
Yes, this is something I wanted to ask you about the costumes. The
Sure.
costumes, I think they must be, very extravagant and unconventional sometimes, for burlesque dancers, I mean. And do you do the design and execute the costume, or only you do the design and somebody else finalize the look of the costumes?
The first one, I do the design and execute. One of my favorite things, and it's kind of like antique or thrift store shopping, is that I love taking old dresses, thrift store finds, and creating a whole different look and putting it on stage. And so everything you see behind me is everything that I've made. And it's the biggest, lengthiest part of the process, but it's also fantastic knowing that I created it. And, I didn't know how to make costumes when I first started the Lalas. I like went to Target and got a robe and, some tank tops and some booty shorts. And so I didn't, know what I was doing. And so then I started looking at, oh, I can hire a designer to come in and create. And then I looked at how much that cost. And so then I bought a sewing machine and went on YouTube and I figured it out. And so I think I've been doing pretty well so far. And yeah, so I mean, I do everything. I cutting and creating and hacking dresses apart that cost $5 and making them look like they're $5 million.
And right now we are in the middle of your dressing room, right? It's not a green screen, right?
Is we have a show next week, and that is me working and packing and fine tuning, and then also in 2 weeks we have a show series where I'm creating a couple of new acts and numbers. So there's a lot of piles going on, and it's not that is for real.
Yes. And tell me, Erin, I want to ask you, since you are a dancer and choreographer and you work in television, in shows and maybe television series as well, what do you think of the representation of burlesque dancers in other media like cinema? For instance, while I was preparing for your interview, I remember I've seen the movie Burlesque with Cher and Christina Aguilera. It was
Yep.
like 13 years ago. And also, I think films and music plays, musicals like Chicago, it has some numbers, featuring performance similar to burlesque. But I want to ask you, as a professional, what do you think about the representation of burlesque dancers in other medium?
I feel like there should be more. I feel like it gets a bad stigma, just because maybe they think it's too sexy. So, movies like Burlesque, that was so well done. In Chicago, Cell Block Tango, so well done. Those are two very influential movies that shed light on strong women. And I feel like there should just be more. A lot of people think burlesque, they think only sexy. And in my world and what I've created, it's equally funny and sexy. And, not everyone knows what it is, but they easily quickly judge it, so they don't accept it. And so I would love to see, a docu-series or a reality show or some kind of, true reality of what the Lalas do. And, people see our show around the world and they don't know who we are. And then after the show, they want to see it again. And so I just love, that transformation as the audience, goes through the show, very hesitant at the beginning, but at the end, I mean, they drank the Kool-Aid, and so I feel like, if there were to be more light shed on burlesque, it would just open up a whole new world to people, not only artistically, but also, female empowerment and date night and just things that they never thought, that they would like, and people wind up loving it.
Great. I want to ask you about the Lalas. Do you do tours across different states or outside of the United States as well?
We have done both. We usually are weekend warriors in the sense that we perform a lot at casinos and event centers and theaters on the weekends. And we have done many special events in Europe and South Africa as well, Canada. And, so, I mean, we're all over the place. And it's not only, very rewarding to see my work on stage, but it's also so rewarding just to see these dancers on stage having an absolute blast. It's truly the best job ever.
Uh, I remember that right now, watching some French television and being in Paris, of course, you have heard of the Moulin Rouge and the Lido and many, dancing theaters, I think you can present something similar in the States, like to have like a theater and it specialized for audio and see these kind of shows.
Well, get me an investor and I'll make that happen right away. I would love that. It is truly one of my bucket list goals for the Lalas to have a place and, like a home base where I can every week just trade in and trade out dancers and costumes and acts and continually just entertain, because it just feels good to make people feel good through laughter. So, that would be wonderful.
Yes, yes. I hope you can have a home for the Lalas either in Florida. New York, I think, could be a very good place as well, besides Broadway's, or as well California, because I think it's a kind of art that you must, receive, because you need to have a home for itself. We don't see a lot of musicals like before, in cinema as well.
Very true.
Yeah. And finally, Irene, I want to ask you, I've seen on your website and also LinkedIn, you have two daughters, right? And I want to know if they are started to be interested in dancing with you.
they don't dance. So one is into gymnastics and one is into sports. And so I tried it, and either way, whatever they want to do. So I'm not one of those to push.
Yes,
So
yes. But some sports as well, they have some kind of dancing as well performance, So maybe someday they do some kind of a mixed show with you or something like that.
we'll see. We'll see. I am pretty tough in rehearsals.
Yes, Erin. And finally, do you have like a certain project or a wish you would like to share with us for the new year?
That's an excellent question. I would love a European residency for 6 weeks, or a tour, some sort of 6 week mini tour or showcase, to get my Lalas over the pond, so to speak, and to also just really enjoy every single weekend and opportunity, because as fabulous and amazing as the show is, I work over 12 hours a day on it. And so sometimes it can feel like a 9 to 5er, to be honest with you. And so I just want to really, enjoy and be in the moment every show instead of worrying or thinking about the next one. What if nobody sees it? What if this is the last year that we do it? What if nobody comes to the show? What if, all those like negative thoughts that people have, and just to kind of drown those out a little bit more, and just to be grateful and happy and joyful, and, to enjoy each and every show. But 6 weeks in Europe would be great too.
Great. I suggest you try to look in artist residencies and as well in art biennales, because right now the biennales uh, do not include only, I mean, visual art or video or painting or sculpture, but incorporate as well dancing and solo performance. So maybe you can find a genre very close to what you do, and you can realize this project, or this residency, in Europe or elsewhere in Asia as well. Uh, I attended several art shows, and maybe you can find something close to your practice.
I would love that. Thank you.
Erin, I want to thank you very much for the live. I wish you all the best for your work as a dancer and choreographer for the Lavas. And I look forward to have you when you have a launch of a new show as well. We can talk about it and have some of your dancers as well.
I can't wait.
Thank you. I wish you a lovely day and a lovely weekend. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.